What else do we do?
When I'm like,
Memory is a funny thing. We expect as we get older that the parts of our lives we'll remember the most are the ones that people always talk about. The milestones. But for me, that's really never been the case. Most times, those big life events are just a blur of anxiety in retrospect. I felt like I was just trying to survive and get past them. The memories that I do find stick with me the most have much more to do with a sense of peace. I like to think of these as in-between moments. For a second, time stands still. It feels separate from the timeline of your life and all the things you need to do. All that fades away and you're just where you are, completely. It never seems to be about the specifics of what is happening, but the feelings associated with that moment. Safety. Sensing that you are a drop within an ocean. Not separate from anything else. Small in your scale, but infinite in your ability to feel. Gratitude, tears of joy, all common for me in these moments. An inner knowing that everything is okay. The brief moments during dawn and dusk, the quiet floor of a library, thunderstorms large enough to force you to slow down and shelter in place. Sitting on a stairwell late at night with a friend, or maybe it was early morning. Your bones ache after a while, but it doesn't matter. The only visible light are distant buildings above treetops, and your eyes adjust as everything in front of you become different shades of milky blacks. The world is asleep, and you're a witness to it. I've noticed this extends to the types of media I connect with as well. Movies where nothing happens are often my favorite. The Before trilogy, Lost in Translation, Columbus, Her. There's an emphasis on mundane beauty. Everyday occurrences that, when highlighted, transform into an emotionally charged experience. They feel like the storytelling equivalent of ambient music. You can sense an openness, a desire to allow space into the moment with you alongside the art. Equally a depiction of a place and of a story.
You know, I believe if there's any kind of God, it wouldn't be in any of us. Not you or me, but just this little space in between.
For a long time, these were the only places I found this type of experience. Within my life, moments with friends or in solitude, times where I had the urge to pull out my camera and capture a glimpse of the presence I was feeling, as well as books, movies, TV shows. Experiences that required my attention, but no actual input from me directly. That changed at some point, though. I stumbled upon an experience that involved my interactivity, while also being a curated piece of art crafted for me. I'd spend hours in this world, using it as a way to relax, a space for quiet, somewhere I could go to see the beauty we are capable of creating. I'm talking about video games, and more specifically, I'm talking about Grand Theft Auto 5. Countless hours have flown by as I've driven, walked, biked, and occasionally flown across the game's detailed replica of Los Angeles, known in-game as Los Santos. The game is a dense and large map to explore, packed with detail in every corner. There's a full day and night cycle and randomly occurring weather. There's sunrises, sunsets, fog, smog, thunderstorms, city lights at night, slick pavement that changes the grip of your tires on the road. You'll see passing blimps, helicopters, people working out on the beach, getting a cup of coffee, talking on their phone, or jamming out to their own radio as they pass by. There's even a functioning subway system, briefly taking you through stretches of underground tunnels. Radio stations are available in every vehicle, a diverse range of genres, meaning you'll almost always find the mood you're looking for. You'll have moments where the perfect song comes on at the perfect moment. Nights by Frank Ocean, as the sun is setting and suddenly you're swimming in the purple hues of dusk.
Every night was every day.
Jasmine by J. Paul, while your car's engine roars in tandem with the sky's thunder. All these elements are completely dynamic, meaning no day can be replicated. Chaos of this adds to each moment's value. A sense of discovery is felt, knowing that you initiated the journey to this particular place, and that it won't last forever. As true as this all is, it's not exactly what Grand Theft Auto is most known for. As you may have been able to guess from the game's title, it's marketed as less of a calming environment to explore and more as a crime simulator. It's a game series known for its excess, an indulgent caricature of the worst parts of American society, filled to the brim with violence, satire, and the fantasies of freedom. Its main gameplay loop is focused on absolute chaos. Rampaging through the streets while using every weapon imaginable is the usual content of a GTA 5 gameplay video. This is all considered the main content of the game, along with the story. Part heist movie, part crime drama, part comedy. It's a story about three criminal protagonists. Your goal is to gain money, power, and somewhere along the way, a life that provides satisfaction. In an ideal situation, the story and the other mechanics of the game would work in tandem to enhance my overall enjoyment and strengthen the exploration element I enjoy so immensely. Sadly, that's not the case here. The story and characters, as well as the game's overall tone, left a lot to be desired for me. The shtick of everything sucks became dull fast, and while the performances are well done, I never felt very connected to any of the game's main characters. The issue is not with the game's plot being centered around crime, but with the execution. We spend so much time with the protagonists, and yet we know very little about them on an emotional level. There's an emotional core prevalent in the game's open world, due to the obvious passion by the developers, but that doesn't really seem to overlap with the story. I was entertained, sure, but none of the story beats or missions left a lasting impact on me, and the exploration aspects of the game and the story aspects are just so separate in my mind. It feels as though they're two different games entirely. This makes the world's beauty feel almost like an unintended consequence. Something that was a result of the artists who poured so much time into its creation, but not something that the rest of the game acknowledges or takes full advantage of. My experience traversing Los Santos showed me a potential video games contain that I never thought of. That the simple act of being in a world is enough to create memorable experiences. Separate from the typical definitions of gameplay, you just exist. And that feels like enough. I couldn't help but think to myself of all the potential that laid untapped after completing the game. What if these two halves, story and exploration, were unified towards a common goal? The same earnest intent to create something meaningful, beautiful, and honest. This is something I hoped Rockstar Games, the creators of Grand Theft Auto, will get a bit closer to with their next game, Red Dead Redemption 2.
The whole world's changing. Even I see that now. Our time is pretty much past. They don't want folk like us no more. No more outlaws. No more killers. Now it's us being hunted. Oh, they ain't stopping. We went and made our choices a long time ago, so I guess we gotta pay for our sins.
When it arrived, it became exactly that. A rich and detailed world with such diversity of atmosphere, gameplay, and characters, all working in tandem to create a painting of a point in time. 1899. The ending of an era moving not so willingly into the next. The game seems keenly aware of its own beauty, and relishes in it every chance it gets. While the story and core gameplay have elements in common with Grand Theft Auto, focusing this time on a gang of outlaws in the Old West as opposed to modern-day criminals, each piece feels so much more cohesive and purposeful. It's a meandering Western tale, one that takes its time, allowing the world and characters to slowly unfold over the course of the story. The first experience playing through the game is an unforgettable one. I was so overwhelmed by the detail and layers to uncover, and was simultaneously so engrossed in the story. In the end, I had just wished I had savored even more of my time with the game's early moments. I recounted my days with the gang as though they were my own distant memories. There is an insane amount of systems and moving parts prevalent. In addition to elements present in Grand Theft Auto 5, the game also has a hunting and crafting system, detailed interiors to rob or abandoned buildings to find, as well as a conversation system.
Watch it! Watch yourself!
I don't care how drunk you bastards are. There's no call for that.
Allowing you to talk your way in and out of trouble in many situations.
Wasting my time.
These elements are all in place, but what really allows the player to become invested in the whole package is the central character of the story, Arthur Morgan. Arthur is a complicated man. He's someone whose past has created such a weight on his shoulders, a weight he feels is too heavy to shake.
My money, my life, me. I wasn't good enough.
Although his actions constantly say otherwise throughout the story, he could not see himself as a good person.
You saved my life. You're a good man, and here. You want a pen? It's one of them steel ones.
Oh. That's very kind of you. But I'm not a good man. No wonder they all leave you. You sour-faced idiot. You ain't fooling no one.
His turbulent childhood found him searching for guidance, and at a young age, he stumbled into the care of Dutch Vanderland and Hosea Matthews, two charismatic crooks set on making a life for themselves free of civilization's suffocating grip. Over time, as more lost individuals entered the group, they became the Vanderland Gang, a group of men and women of all ages, backgrounds, and circumstances, brought together by the leadership of Dutch and the moral steadfastness of Hosea.
Tell him, Arthur. Tell him we're okay now.
We're okay, Dutch. Jose's right. We're just getting back on our feet.
Arthur's role in the group is a sort of implicit leader. He's not the one giving big speeches during times of distress or sharing philosophies on life and meaning.
Our job is to make a better world for ourselves.
But he is who people go to in times of need.
Let's get you home.
He's who Abigail asks to take Jack fishing when his father isn't making an effort at all. He's the one Pearson, the camp cook, counts on to bring in food. And he himself often offers to replace items individuals have lost throughout their constant moves, fleeing from the law. When we first meet Arthur and the gang, they're going through a tough time, tougher than usual. After a robbery went awry in Blackwater, they fled to the mountains, losing members of the gang in the process.
Now we've had, well, a bad couple of days. I loved Davy, Jenny, Sean, Mac. They may be okay. We don't know. But we lost some folks.
As the story continues, the gang keep heading east. It seems civilization is much more difficult to escape than it used to be. With each new chapter, there's a new town and a new camp, a new part of the world to get lost in, and a new opportunity for discovery within the world and the story. Your drive to explore is partially motivated by the beauty of the world, and partially motivated by the story itself. The gang is always in need of supplies and money, both things you find on your travels. Throughout these journeys, Arthur writes and draws in his journal, giving you a ton of insight into his mental state, thoughts on certain story beats, as well as an archive of your discoveries and when you found them. The journal may seem like a small addition, but in practice, it's not at all. Because Arthur is the type of person who keeps his feelings bottled up behind a tough veneer, this direct way to understand him more does a lot for your connection to him. You not only observe how he reacts to events around him, but also what he thinks about when no one else is around to hear.
I feel like the luckiest man alive, and I feel like a fool. That woman confuses me and plays me for a fiddle like no one else alive. I trust I will not make a god-awful fool of myself once more, but somehow I imagine I shall.
As an artist, I love seeing his sketches and handwriting. They really nail the tactile feel of pencil, even adding fingerprint smudges every now and then. It's a very human touch, revealing a layer to his character that's hard to see any other way. On my most recent playthrough, I spent a lot of time in camp, talking to everyone and listening to arguments, conversations, relationships forming or crumbling, confessions around the campfire at night, and more.
Oh, Arthur, you're the only one of these fools knows just how lost he is.
Ain't that the truth?
There were countless times where I learned something new about someone or the gang's history. Most of these conversations are completely missable and context sensitive to where you are in the story. If you simply beeline the main story missions, there are so many subplots and threads you could miss out on. Here's an example. For context, this is the day after Arthur and a few other gang members rescued Sean from a group of bounty hunters.
Be glad Dutch didn't send you back to Blackwater with Charles and Javier.
I heard it got bloody down there.
Yeah, it worked out, I guess. You and Sean seem to enjoy the party then?
Oh, shut up.
What did I say? Mary Beth,
Hey, Arthur.
how's it riding?
Not very good. I hear the most wonderful words in my head, and then I write absolute poppycock. But I love it.
Yeah, me too. My journal. I was reading something the other day. I write like a fool.
One day I'd love a beautiful fountain pen and a great desk in a quiet room and to write the most beautiful stories.
Well, I can't do much about the stories or the quiet room, but maybe I'll find you a pen.
Thank you.
Because of these additions, the gang you spend your time with feel just as alive as the world you explore. When you find yourself at the top of a hill just in time for sunrise, it feels just as special as stumbling upon John and Hosea having a conversation in camp.
We all gotta die, but you got the chance to live. Not just to live for love. Arthur will tell you, we all gotta die, but love is the thing. The only thing.
The world of Red Dead Redemption 2 feels massive. There are so many distinct climates, from the snowy mountains of the game's opening to swamps, deserts, and practically everything in between. There's been massive upgrades to the weather systems. You can often see a storm coming in the distance, and watch as the clouds overhead envelop the landscape around you. Moments after rainstorms, you'll see a reflective sheen emitting from everything light bounces off of. Night skies are breathtaking. When you're in areas free of light pollution, an explosive amount of stars scatter the sky. The sound of the environment is also a major highlight as well. Animals, foliage, wind ripping through it all. It's a dense soundscape. It's not only realistic, but dynamic based on what's actually around you. Hear a bird call? Search nearby and you'll be able to find its source. These are not just simple layers of natural noises, but real things around you emitting sound. Of course, in 1899 there are no radio stations. Although you will hear the rare camp sing-along or banjo session here and there.
Her neck's so long and stringy, I'm afraid she'll never die.
Instead, scattered through your road trips will be ambient soundtracks. All dynamically relevant to the time of day and location. There's the perfect amount of space between these moments. It feels less like you're listening to a song being played over the environment and more like whispers gesturing towards the time period. These moments are perfectly complemented by the meditative act of slowly riding your horse through the landscape. Compared to the typical mode of transport, your horse feels much more like a pet than a vehicle.
That's my boy.
You choose what horse you ride, their name, their saddle. You feed them, brush them, pet them, calm them when a predator is near, and speak to them in little moments throughout the game.
That's a good girl.
Taking care of your horse pays off. It improves the animal's speed and responsiveness to your inputs, as well as its response during dangerous situations. It's a difficult task to not get attached to your specific steed when they are treated with as much care and attention as every other part of the game.
You're a strong one, boy.
When you have to consciously pay attention to these small details, it forces you to take things one step at a time. You become much more conscious of the journey and less focused on your destination. I find whenever I get frustrated with the game's many systems or elements to take care of and manage, it's because I really just wasn't in the moment. I was caught in a future one, trying to get to my location or the next mission or simply move along faster. The beauty of the game making a conscious effort to veer away from that mentality is that it reminds you of the parts that really matter, in between. Simply spending time in this world is what's most enthralling. Losing sight of that means you lost sight of the point, to enjoy your time while it lasts. The combination of the game's intensely immersive slice of Earth and its story created an immensely emotionally weighted experience. With every step, I was so invested in these characters, this place. I felt as though I was able to peer into another world in more detail and depth than in any other experience I'd ever had. I didn't just shoot Arthur's gun, I heard him whistling to himself across the many road trips we took in the wilderness. There's a blurry line here, whether it feels like you are Arthur or that you're simply watching his journey unfold. I think it's a bit of both. You're given enough agency in the pacing of the game and its deep customization to make the experience your own. You choose when cutscenes happen, if it's day or night.
So, what is it you need?
What you're wearing, what your hairstyle is. The words written on the page may be more rigid than which hat you choose to wear, but the combination of these parts makes something so much greater. Something with a seemingly infinite amount of time you could spend soaking it all in. Hearing the rivers flow, fishing, playing poker, or listening to the bustling streets of Saint Denis, uncovering mysteries, or simply sitting on the edge of a cliffside, taking in the evening air. As infinite as it all may seem, though, eventually you must progress. And with progression comes the eventual end. The eventual last time you will ride your horse, and the last time you'll witness a new piece of this epic tale. The knowledge of that inevitability is especially present in the latter half of the game's story.
I mean, this whole thing is pretty much done. We're more ghosts than people.
You savor what time you have left, but are also slowly accepting the end of it all. That feeling, that inner knowing that all of this will end, permeates the entirety of the game. The opening itself states, By 1899, the age of outlaws and gunslingers was at an end. This story is that end. A reckoning with what it means for your sense of identity and way of life to be challenged from every direction.
They're gonna let a bunch of criminals go after what we done.
We are not criminals. We are outlaws.
There's a difference?
Of course there is a goddamn difference, and when you figure out what that is, you'll know what the hell we're doing.
Well, feels like we're running, killing, and running some more.
Listen, these are tough times, of course, but now, this is when we have to be our strongest.
Will you resist what the world is becoming, or accept what is arriving and try to live for what matters most to you?
What about loyalty to everything?
Be loyal to what matters.
Time keeps moving. Things continue to change, but we can change how we react to these experiences. Become the person we wish we were.
What am I gonna do now?
Be grateful that for the first time, you see your life clearly.
Isn't there a beauty in that? The temporary nature of it all? All these moments, all these times I've been moved by something on a screen or right in front of me, they haven't lasted forever. I was forced to savor them. Forced to look for as long as I could, to take a deep breath and appreciate the world I was being shown. It doesn't need to last forever for it to feel meaningful. In fact, I think it's the opposite. We despise change, and yet we crave it at the slightest moment of stagnation. We push forward one step at a time. There's an inner knowing that there's more beauty out there for us to discover, more sunrises and loved ones to meet. And while the sun sets on Arthur Morgan's journey eventually, it will surely rise again. In a new form perhaps, but one just as beautiful.
I had a realization which probably most other people have when they're at 18. It just occurred to me quite recently that the primary job of artists is to create places in which you can have feelings. I more and more think that the job of art is to present you with other worlds, and the process of engaging with them is saying, okay, I'm going to live in that world for a little bit. I'm going to exist in that and see what it feels like to be in that world. That, to me, is the most important thing that we do really as humans, where we probe the possibilities for the future and for alternative locations and so on by living them in a model, in a simulated form.